benefits to the team. Cliff said he heard you speak a couple years ago, and he was really impressed with you and wanted you to talk to the guys.
Well, the coach is very kind. But so what I do now for Adam is I travel around to talk to teams and the business units about leadership and youth development. I always start the same way, which is thanking them for what they have some great connections to the military. They have great connections to the community. They do a lot, with youth development. And so my first message is always to thank them for that. And then, I kind of challenge them to understand who they are and how they fit into a team. I try to convince them that we're all leaders. Whether you're the most junior player on the team or you're the most senior player, you're a leader on that team. And if you're on the top end of it, you're probably mostly oriented on leading down. If you're on the bottom end of it, or the rookie, you're leading up. You're a new set of eyes. You bring a kind of a new enthusiasm, which is how we continue to refresh the league every year, with our influx of rookies. And so, and sometimes the more junior they are, the less they feel like they should assert themselves. I mean, unless they're, of such star quality that they do. But generally speaking, they're not. And I try to get them to do that. And then, with this particular team, they're right there on the right in that 4-team mix that has a shot at making the playoffs. And I asked them to please do so that I could take some credit for it.
General, you can do whatever you want at this stage of your life.
Yeah.
Why basketball? Why basketball?
That's the right question. So, for 41 years in the military, I was really proud when somebody would walk up to me and say, "What do you do for a living?" And I'd say, "Well, I'm in the United States Army, and I'm proud to be there, and here's why." So, when I retired, I wanted to find that. And I found it in two places. I found it as a professor or an adjunct professor at Duke University, where I teach in the spring. I teach undergrads about civil military relations, and in the fall I teach in the business school about leadership. And I'm proud to say that. And then the other thing was the commissioner asked me if I would take on a role as his advisor on matters related to leadership and youth development. And I'm proud to do that, because what I've learned about the NBA, and this isn't to disparage any other sport. A lot of sports do great stuff, but I'm really proud in particular of the way the NBA allows the players to have a voice, to use their platform to try to do good and try to add their voice to contentious issues, without crossing over any boundaries that either the league or the particular franchise imposes. And what I mean by that is there's a real sense of social responsibility in the NBA that I'm proud to be part of. And so that's why I ended up with basketball. Well, that and, my quickness, my vertical leap, which you're looking at it right now. I'm doing it. You may not notice it, but I'm doing it. No, I'm really proud to be part of this league, because I think this is a time in our country where sometimes our politics. Look, I talk to these players about this too. This nice device in my hand, which connects us in unimaginable ways. We're more connected than we've ever been, but it also highlights our differences more than it highlights our similarities. And so, I challenge the players to be vocal in highlighting our similarities so we can get through this period.
Some of the feedback, General, that you get maybe from some of these guys, or when you're giving similar speeches to athletes in that capacity?
I tell you what, you'll always hear people talk about this generation as having a really short attention span and that they can be a little bit disrespectful. I just haven't found it. And in fact, they were extraordinarily attentive, I thought. I put the burden on myself to hold their attention, anybody's attention, your attention. The burden's on me to make sure that I'm connecting with you. It's not so much on you to make sure you're connecting with me. So in fact, Coach and I talk about the fact that leaders today, because it's such a confusing time and we have so much information flying around, leaders have to be sense makers. A leader has to help their followers make sense of things. And so Coach has to make sense of basketball, but he also is kind of a father figure to them. So, he's got to have the kind of relationship with them where they can say to him, "What in the world's going on with this shutdown? and they have a conversation about something other than basketball. So I always feel like that it's my responsibility to connect to an audience, and that if I'm doing my job, they'll be attentive, and I won't have to worry about them putting their earbuds in and checking out. Yeah.
That's great.
Anything else?
General, are you concerned, sir, by the stridency, the lack of civil discourse in our country?
Oh yeah, I'm very concerned about it. This is not I'm going to mention the title of a book I just wrote, but not to try to sell it. I'm doing fine. But I wrote a book titled Radical Inclusion, and the thesis is that, again, this era of ubiquitous information, kind of corrosiveness, lack of civility, and intense scrutiny. That's the other thing. Everything that happens, even whether it's in a sport or in government, is intensely scrutinized in a way that's kind of unique, right? Since roughly the 9/11 period. And in that environment, you can start to, our differences become the dominant theme. I believe, and my co-author believes, that to combat that, we have to have an instinct for inclusion, not just diversity, by the way. We have to get, diversity is important, but you got to go beyond diversity to make sure that those people actually feel a sense of belonging, whether it's belonging on a basketball team, or it's belonging in a military, or it's belonging, in society. I think we gotta tighten our chin straps. Bad metaphor in a basketball arena. Mm-hmm. Lace up our sneakers, and we've got to do a better job of kind of giving people a sense of belonging that maybe we've lost over time.
Good stuff.
Okay.